let me tell you something. I'm not getting a lot of phone calls because they all know, don't bother me. I don't really care, I'll take a nice trip in like January. I'll go to Sally's Pizza. I'll go see my aunt and uncles. I'll go do all that. Some nice trip at the end of the season, or probably in February when recruiting's over, and I'll take a nice social trip for myself. This is no social trip right now, and not real interested in it. You guys see how much goes into these games, the pressure, what's on the line, what people invest in this thing. There's just no room for that right now, and I'm not going to even entertain it.
Now, there's a lot of talk about their defense being, dominant, probably the best defense in the Big East. But when people talk about their offense, they just say, "Oh, they can't play." Looking on film, what are some of the things that you've seen that really impressed you?
Well, they have a strong run game, and I think that sometimes when people look at games, they always look at games through points scored and all this other jazz. And that's all a part of it now. But there's also a part of complementing your defense, and I think their team complements well. Their offense wants to run the ball. They play outstanding defense, and I really like their special teams. So I think their team complements each other well, and that's what I've seen. And probably not all that different than us, and that's our plan to win. I don't know their plan to win, but I would say to you that they're trying to play to who they are and their strengths right now, and what I see is some talented football players, man. I see that tight end is talented. I see the running back is talented. I like their quarterback. They got a big offensive line, and their defense is daunting. It really is.
Coach, Tyler, I'm sorry.
What it was like to bring a kid like Montel in, had maybe some issues at those other places, a fifth-year senior. How's he going to fit in there a lot? Just what the process kind of was there, and because he seems like he's fit in fine,
Yeah, well, obviously, I wouldn't bring anybody in here unless I had a chance to sit down and visit with he and his family and get a chance to know him. Plus, I have the advantage of two guys on my staff that were with him, so they know who he really is. He's a wonderful guy, a tremendous person, and you could see that right away that he was a great person, bright, understood football, and he's been nothing but a pleasure since he's been here. That's just it. I don't even know what to tell you, but he was a great addition to our football program. And
how tough was it on him sitting with the hamstring that
yeah,
couldn't
hard.
really do what he wanted to do for
hard.
a month?
Real hard. That's a tough injury for a back. I think even I have a greater appreciation for that. I always knew it was, but it really is, especially a power back like that. And it's not been easy for him. He's still not full. He's still not really, where he's been. He's still not. That's not happened yet, really. That next gear. That's how long those injuries can be. I'm just grateful we handled it the way we did, because it could have been a disaster. Had we played him, kept trying to play him along the way. Those things never go away. They linger the whole season if you do that. So, but he's a terrific kid. He's been a great addition. He's a pleasure. He's a great representative of Temple, and I'm glad we have him.
Coach, because Adderall's injury and Tyler got in there last week, he winds up being on the honor roll, leading in tackles. What's your philosophy on guys sitting even if they get over an injury and playing a guy? Or do you have them?
You need them all. They're both going to play. You need them all. You're certainly not going to not play Tyler, and you need them all. And then they compete. You see how that competition goes. You don't lose your job because of an injury. That shouldn't be the case. Doesn't mean, though, that someone can't beat you out. But Nialwali was playing really well, too. So we just strengthened ourselves, what we did. Created some depth, Some positions we got a little depth now, some we don't. Up front, we're not real deep on either side of the ball. And at least we're starting to develop that depth a little bit, which is a real positive thing.
Steve, how's Matt doing?
Getting better every day.
Did you practice today?
No. He needs to stay off that ankle. But he's doing better every day, and he's the type of guy that there's no doubt in his mind, and he's right on course.
Any expectation for the weekend, or right on course for the weekend?
Right now, he's right on course. So hopefully, his history has been he's ready to roll. That's been his history, but you never know.
Steve, big picture from a recruiting standpoint. When you first came in, you talked about establishing like a 5-hour footprint in every direction when it came to recruiting. Does this game take on any extra meaning for you? You've talked about how you haven't been able to recruit to the conference yet, so does going into UConn and putting on a good showing matter even more from that perspective?
Yeah. I mean, you know, where you go, you know, you're in your footprint. You want to play well in your footprint. And it's always important that you play well in your footprint. And that's the beautiful part about being in this conference. You know, there's such good geographical ties. But in addition to that, we have ties. There's you know, obviously Florida teams, and we like to go down there and recruit a little bit down there as well. It's kind of like we have a kind of a 4 or 5 hour print, and then we'll also dip down into Florida. So that matches us pretty good. You know, certainly don't know yet about, you know, the other parts of the country. You know, I just don't know that well. That's not been a part of my footprint. You know, I'm real strong on the 2 areas I meant, but in those other areas I've been there and very sparingly. So my experience is it's all contacts and stuff like that.
Steve, with Kadeem and Kamal gone, what does that do to your depth? And who are the guys that you see stepping up there, whether it's Hershey Walton or guys like that?
Well, I mean, Hershey, Shaheed, Levi, Yabodi, they had to take most of those interior reps. They took them all. We're trying to bring along a couple of freshmen, you know, and get them ready to go. We're going to have to use them. We've got too much season left. It's going to happen. So, you know, Matt Ioannidis is the guy we're, you know, trying to, Shabazz Ahmed is a guy. Those are a couple of guys we're trying to get ready to roll. So, you know, they're young, and it's hard in the offensive and defensive lines, but at the end of the day, it'll make us better a year from now, too, you know. So we're in that process, which is good.
Where's Nate Smith in his development right now? I mean, he's your leading tackler. I know you saw glimpses of that in the spring, but did you expect him to be?
He's been a playmaker. We saw it in the spring. We saw it in camp. There's no question. He needs to get more detailed, more consistent. That has to happen. You know, sometimes, you know, as hard as he goes and as many plays as he makes, he's got to make sure that defense is gap control. And you got to make sure you're always in the right gap and playing within the system. And he's working real hard. He's young, but he has a real playmaking ability and a really good motor, and that's the starting point. So we've been really pleased with his work.
Steve, have you talked to the team about what they should expect, at least from the football atmosphere at Connecticut, from your own experience?
Well, my experience is pretty limited. I actually opened the very first, I was on the Indiana staff when we played UConn, the very first opening day they opened their stadium. So, and it's hard for me to remember back that far, but, you know, we're using crowd noise. So we're preparing for crowd noise, you know.
Silent cadence.
Yep. So we worked on that today. I think we got to be prepared for both. I'm not really sure. I don't really feel like I have a great, I have a great feel for the Carrier Dome. I don't know that I have a great feel. You know, like I said, I was there one time. I don't really remember us using silent cadence then, but we're going to prepare for that. I'm sure they're expecting a pretty good crowd and it'll be a pretty good atmosphere. So.
You know how the last time Temple was up there, the game ended?
Yeah,
With that
yeah,
play?
yeah. I'm not familiar with the play, but I remember,
Disputed call, photos showed the kid had his foot in bounds.
Yep.
Chris Francis would have won the game.
Yeah.
Little minor issue.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens this year. You know what I mean?
Steve, what are you expecting from Chris this year?